This is not a how-to video, but I will cover the theory behind the design of making this Yeti, the making processes, and give general advice for creatives, all of which you should be able to apply to your own projects. For a music video, I was commissioned to design a Yeti with swappable faces, a sad face and an angry face. This is a log of what worked and crucially what didn't. I'll start with the design, concepting and making of the head, and if you're still interested, I'll cover how I made the rest of the body. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll find this video is divided into these sections. There's a lot going on, so you might want to skim around.
Are Yetis real?
Not yet.
Not Yeti.
In this section, I'll cover how to make something subtly cute and how I reference real animals to inform the features of this Yeti's face. To make a pitiable, almost cute Yeti involved enlarging its eyes, diminishing its nose, and using the nose to eye ratio of a house cat. This is my intern. Cheerio. You'll notice enlarged eyes and a diminished nose. This is also the blueprint for animated princesses. These side by side show the cat proportions of Disney princesses compared to human proportions to highlight the effect on cuteness. The same cat ratio also happens to inform anime and manga character design. Like cats, they feature enlarged eyes, small noses, and diminished chins. Perhaps the reason that cats are innately cute is because they retain the facial proportions of human babies into adulthood. However, for a mask like our Yeti, you have to account for it being able to fit overhead, so it's hard to drastically alter the proportions without enlarging the Yeti face. And enlarging the head on this costume might have strayed into a children's mascot territory, away from being a believable creature. To create the illusion of a shorter chin, to adhere to the cat ratio, I plan to use the Yeti's beard to disguise the length of the wearer's face beneath. Teeth say a lot about animals. Flat teeth grind vegetation, while sharp teeth tear flesh. The thin anglerfish teeth give a horror vibe, but they'd be too brittle to be useful for a creature at this scale. I say that because of the kind of things it'd be hunting, like wolves, moose? Blacked out eyes are scary because they're unreadable. You don't know where the creature is looking.
Anyone bleeding?
Oh.
Ow, ow, ow.
Dory, are you okay? Oh, that's good.
Blacked out eyes also help make the thing look more alive. If it had a static pupil, it'd be dead-eyed. It'd look too much like a mask, and I didn't have time to create a mechanism for moving the eyes. Due to the time constraints of the commission, I was concepting as I went along. I had a side Yeti which I was testing processes on. Initially I was waiting for the eyes to arrive before drafting the face in 3D because the proportions of the face, and the Yeti's subtle cuteness, as we discussed, are all informed by the width of the eye. Predators have forward-facing eyes that allow for depth perception to aid hunting, and in humans the space between those eyes is typically the width of a single eye. Eventually, I had to assume the eyes were stolen off the front porch, along with a bunch of other materials that I had to reorder. Not ideal given the time pressure.
Please hold.
In the meantime, I played around with the face by taping black wrap over a craft mask. Black wrap is heat and weatherproof, so it's typically used by gaffers and sparks on film sets for manipulating light. Frankly, it's too useful and expensive for what I was doing, but I liked how it compacted better than tinfoil, which seems to be what most cosplayers on YouTube use in this process. I drafted a mask base from contact cement and EVA foam, guessing the proportions based on the diameter of the bauble halves stated online, which was about 5 centimeters. Don't worry, I detail the pattern making process of any 3D object properly later in the video, or you can skip to it now. The eyes arrived. Glossy wet look of a blacked out eyeball was achieved by spray painting the insides of a decorative Christmas bauble, something I discovered while making this tree spirit costume. This was a contemporary dance, fashion film type thing. You can find it on my channel, if you're interested. Then I layered on the foam clay. I did 2 separate approaches on either side of the face. At first, I had a slit beneath the eye that the wearer could see out of, but it was too noticeable, so I expanded the eye holes beneath the sprayed baubles. I made the eye holes bigger than the bauble eyes, presuming that the Yeti would be captured with mostly low-angle shots to make the Yeti seem bigger and more opposing in frame. In the completed mask, the ridge of the lower eyelids and the white eyelashes further obscured these eye holes. At this point, I was worried about how humanoid the thing was looking due to its nose and mouth. I didn't want the client being accused of implying that certain human features were monstrous, so after some experimentation, I argued for lopping the nose off to divorce it from human comparison entirely, and took inspiration from these dunnies. These are snub-nosed monkeys, generally from southern China, and their lack of nose was theorized to have evolved to avoid frostbite, which is a pretty fitting feature for our Yeti. The cinematography in this Nat Geo doc is too beautiful, so I've linked it below. You might have noticed that their globby mouths feature in the final Yeti too, and they've definitely got a cute factor, as their eyes and nose have an extreme version of the princess's kitten face ratio. So my concepting test revealed that the EVA foam recedes and collapses over its 2-day drying period, which meant I had to rethink the base I'd designed to provide more structure to reduce the amount of foam clay and shorten drying times. In this part I'll cover crucial considerations for working with EVA foam. I'll be referencing human facial musculature to make emotions more readable. I'll show you the pattern making process for any 3D object, and we'll explore the hierarchy of contrast points on the human face. So I made a new pattern for the EVA foam sheet directly from the prototype by covering the half of the face that I liked in double wide masking tape, making sure to get in every crevice. I peeled that off, then bordered each nearly flat plane of the face with Sharpie. I only needed half the face map because I then mirrored each pattern piece once I'd cut them and marked them out on the phone. The blue and red marker denoted whether I cut foam at an angle to create a convex or a concave join, innies or outies essentially. The green dashes marked where to line up the planes when gluing them together with contact cement. I then started sculpting the subtly sad and angry face. I worked on them simultaneously, measuring out a mass of clay foam for each facial muscle equally for both faces. For example, the top lip is made from roughly the same amount of foam when it's flared to bare its teeth as when it's relaxed. The same applies for the brows when they're furrowed or bowed upwards. To help make the emotion of the Yeti more readable, I decided to reference human facial anatomy. I've blended the snub-nosed monkey's face with a musculature that's capable of human facial expressions. In general, the angry face was taut and angular, while the sad was puffier and relaxed despite consisting of the same amount of clay. The teeth arrangement was inspired by Javanese masks, but less extreme so that the upper lip could feasibly conceal them. I'm pretty sure these are depictions of Hanuman the Monkey King, which is consistent with all the inspiration already drawn from primates. At some point, maybe because I was referencing human facial anatomy so much, I added this dumb little chin, but with hindsight I think it unnecessarily elongates the face and messes with the cuteness ratios I was banging on about before. Time was a major factor in all my decision making. How long foam took to set, how long paint took to dry, and most crucially, how long it took for materials to deliver. The biggest piss take was that the eyes and the spray paint were stolen off the front porch and had to be repurchased and redelivered. The first ghillie suit, the basis for the costume, was also nothing like its pictures and had to be returned. When embarking on deadline projects like this, it's crucial to get your materials in and begin experimenting as soon as possible. Part of the process which bore the brunt of the knock-on effects of delays was the painting. I first coated the faces in a flexi plastic spray to help reduce cracking the paint layers on top in case the mask got bashed or warped from heat. Then I sprayed the head red as an undercoat, as I originally intended to layer up the face with a slightly translucent white acrylic to make the skin pinkish with rosy cheeks to create subsurface scattering and a gradation, a bit like the Santa. But again, time constraints prevented that, and I was forced to ditch that process and use beige skin-like spray paint instead. I darkened the teeth and added plaque for realism. It always looks unnatural if teeth are too light. Also, our eyes are naturally drawn to high contrast points. The highest naturally occurring contrast point on someone's face is the eyes, and it makes sense because they're used so much for communication, especially non-verbal warnings of fear, shock, or suspicion, or indicating direction in a hunting scenario. The reason why bleach white teeth look kinda off is because it confuses your brain. Eyes are supposed to be the highest contrast point, not someone's mouth.
What is this then? What is this about?
It's a toothpaste commercial.
What?
Toothpaste commercial.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you don't brush your teeth, that's what happens.
I'm 57.
At this point, I was also toying with the idea of being able to stop frame animate a blink of the eyes by making multiple sets of eyelids incrementally closing, so I lubed up my baubles to mould the eyelids on, but I quickly abandoned the idea due to the amount of faff it would cause on set. I don't want to be responsible for holding the shoot up. Majority of my considerations for my costume design centre around reducing setup time and not disrupting the flow of a shoot. If something might require scheduling for it, I make sure to warn the producers and ADs as early as I can. For the actual body, there are a few things I did that you may be able to implement on your own builds. In this section, we'll consider the impact of a creature's silhouette, give the Yeti a naturalistic build for its hypothetical lifestyle, and provide a practical solution for working with this much hair. One of the main considerations for creature design is the overall silhouette. Its readability and instant impression hinges on its outline. In the case of our Yeti, a sudden big head might have given it costume vibes, but implying colossal traps leading up to the head would have made it more beastly and powerful. I also think it would be naturalistic, as I pictured this brer roaming Alaska and Canada hunting moose and wolves and dragging its kills back to its den, so its traps, forearms and grip would have to be suitably enlarged and adapted for the task. To achieve the look of well-developed traps, I sewed stacked sponges into a long sleeve shirt. Definitely cheaper than Pure Gem. I further cut the armpits open and partially split the sleeves for the wearer's comfort and ventilation.
I fucking smell myself, Jesus Christ.
To save time, I decided to order a cheap ghillie suit to build out from. I initially tried dirtying the ghillie suit by soaking it in muddy water, as it was almost luminous white. It was some kind of synthetic polythread, so I knew a dye wouldn't stick, but I was hoping the static generated from the plastic would make the dirt stick. Instead, the dirt dried and ended up all over the house, somehow. After confusing the guys at the weave shop, I arranged the hair diagonally across the body to disguise the join between the top and trouser of the ghillie suit. I rationed out the weave, then sandwiched it in cheap calico fabric and sewed across to secure it all. This meant I could then pin the hair onto the ghillie suit, but also move it around when I saw fit. As a side note, safety pins are not safe. Safety pins bend under strain, then open, leaving an exposed point, and boom, your actor's got tetanus. Kilt pins are safer because they're way more rigid. The varying lengths of hair reference the snub-nosed monkeys, while the length of the vertical lines help to break up the stepped, hard lines of the ghillie suit. And yeah, that's it. I honestly love this kind of work, so if you need something made, please don't hesitate to reach out. Some of the behind-the-scenes footage of a music video shoot was courtesy of Milton, a formidable director duo, who have some pretty sick docs and music vids you can pore over. They're linked in the description.